Hi, this is kind of awkward, but welcome. Yes, good. So I attended a meeting that was referred to as a recovery meeting. I did this online, partially because I got sick and then Thanksgiving break happened and, I ran out of time. But also partially because a lot of my clients, I work currently in a rural area, and they talk about how transportation is like their major barrier to making it to group treatment, to their individual sessions, etc. So I wanted to just see what an online meeting would be like, to see if it would be even something that I would want to suggest to clients in the future. So honestly, I got online and I Googled anxiety management, self-help groups, because I have been having some increased anxiety lately, and I thought, the best way for me to be able to participate in something would be for me to actually relate to it. I found Recovery International, and I attended the meeting on November 27th from 11 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. And the meeting was the title of the meeting was called Fear, Chance, and Will. And on their website, there are multiple meetings per day, all different times, and you can call in, or you can Skype in, or you can chat, like just type, depending on what kind of meeting works best for you, I guess. And yeah, so I thought it was the site was really easy to use. It was really easy to find a meeting and to get that set up. And I guess to share a little bit of the background of Recovery International, they started 80 years ago on May 20th, 2017. So I guess they've been around for 81 years. It's based on a program that Dr. Abraham Lowe created. He was a neuropsychiatrist. I'll read you a couple quotes just directly from their website. The mission of Recovery International is to use the cognitive behavioral peer-to-peer self-help training system developed by Dr. Abraham Lowe, MD, to help individuals gain skills to lead more peaceful and productive lives. And then one more piece here. Recovery International was founded in 1937 to help people recovering from mental illness transition from hospitalization back into the community and to help eliminate the stigma of mental illness. The organization evolved to create self-help tools based on cognitive behavioral techniques and developed a training program for peer leaders long before this became a norm. Today, Recovery International's volunteers and staff run more than 400 meetings per week, helping tens of thousands of people to achieve better mental health. So basically, at the beginning of the meeting, I kind of got on there, and the leader, kind of introduced himself and said he was not licensed, that this was 100% peer support. He said that this was a meeting by nervous and anxious people for nervous and anxious people, and everyone was welcome. It kind of went through like a couple questions about, what is your comfortability participating today, and maybe what brought you here, or whatever you wanted to share as an opener. And then they just kind of highlighted some kind of ground rules for meetings, like trying not to have distractions, self-endorsing for things that you do well, and helping other people self-endorse for things that they do well. So it kind of started off right, like strengths-based at the beginning, kind of from chapter 8. That's like a honing in on the strengths. Be group-minded and stay present, and they were very clear that they do not diagnose, they don't talk about medications, and they also had rules for not talking about sex, religion, politics, or legal issues, as well as traumatic events, which I thought was interesting. I'm trying to go through my notes here. I did want to point out, it was kind of cool. So when certain people got on to talk, they shared like where they were from. You were allowed to do that. You don't have to, I guess. I didn't. But one person was from Vienna, one person was from California, and one person was from Denver. So I thought it was interesting to be able to connect with people like that across the world even. I guess that might not always be helpful if you're trying to look for natural supports in your community, but if that's not possible, I think this was a good option. Something else that was interesting about this specific meeting is they had a language that they all shared. a part of it was called, they were called spots, which were basically just like short phrases that might be relatable. And when someone would share an example about how they were feeling really anxious lately or really nervous, the other people in the group would jump in and share these spots. So share something that they could all know the meaning of and kind of be able to think about, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, I can push through my fear, or, examples like that. Another one was like, we may feel helpless sometimes, but we don't always have to be hopeless. Everyone can be successful with tools and support. So yeah, it kind of talked a lot about like specific tools to use, being able to look at your environment and what's going on and changes in your environment, as well as they use the word temper, but I kind of took that as what was going on. Were you calm that day? Were you anxious? Were you angry? Didn't necessarily mean like actual like anger, temper. Trying to see. So the meeting that I attended was on fear and will, and it started out with a little short reading, and then kind of broke out into, okay, like whoever is comfortable sharing and wants to discuss an example that is related to fear or will within the last week, like, open the floor. But then each example that was shared was broken down. And I mentioned earlier that this was kind of based in CBT-esque techniques, and I did see that because it was kind of broke down where, like, first they would talk about the temper that they had. So, the feelings, was it nervousness, anxiousness, anger, sadness, whatever the feeling was, and then talk about, okay, what was your physiological response, what was going on with your actual body. And so, it would be things like sweaty palms, stomach ache, etc. And then it was, so how did you respond? And the response was kind of broken down even further in like, what did you do well and what did you do? And they used the term sabotage, so I wasn't a huge fan of that, but it was at least helpful in kind of seeing maybe a pattern if they continue to do the same thing whenever they are anxious, to be able to recognize that. And it did seem as if some of the people that I was in the meeting with had been in several meetings together, because the way they were responding to one another did seem that they were familiar with what that person might have done in the past. The leader did provide reflections, and when it was broken down, it was literally like, okay, we're going to go through step 1, step 2, step 3. So it was very like structured and followed an exact outline, which I thought was good because it kept everyone on track and kind of on topic, and no one could be lost because you were following it on the screen and you were listening to it. And also it was like very just like open, and people were able to say like, I need help in this moment, and I want help working through this. But it was very clear that like advice was not being given. They were kind of sticking to that language and trying to help the person find what they can do themselves. And also they pointed out that this may happen again. So how can we make decisions, plan, and act in the future so that we're not getting caught in cycles? It just seemed that everyone was very supportive of one another. I felt very, very welcome. I was prompted to speak a couple times. A couple times I said no, and a couple times I did participate. I didn't actually share my own example, but I definitely provided feedback for other people's, and I tried to use their language because I had some examples in front of me on the screen. So if I had to choose something that I didn't love about it, it was just that although the people were very welcoming, the language was kind of hard to, like, if I didn't know it the first time, it was hard to learn it quickly. and also just like it did feel very like kind of rigid throughout the whole thing. It was kind of like, now we're going to go through step 1, now step 2. So it didn't feel very fluid. But some things I really did enjoy about it were that people just seemed to be like building each other up. Everyone doesn't have to participate if they don't want to. It was kind of at everyone's own level and level of comfort, level of readiness to change, kind of like that was talked about in chapter 8 as well. People pointed out positive things that each other did as we kept moving, which brought back that strengths-based idea. And no one was pressured or judged when they were speaking. Even when the person was kind of maybe talking badly about themselves, other people would provide kind of, I don't know, positive things about them that they saw. It did seem to be a mutual help group, as kind of discussed in chapter 9, and techniques similar to CBT were used by kind of helping to connect those thoughts, feelings, and actions. And there was definitely a focus on connection with one another, but it was made very clear several times, this is not advice, it's not diagnosis, we're helping each other, no one's licensed here. The only reason we have a leader is just to keep on time and keep everybody organized. And it seemed that the leaders do change, which was kind of neat. So yeah, I thought it was a very interesting experience, and I would definitely be open to experiencing something like that again.